most are afraid of unknown depths, skirting shores thinking world flat, and with the island girls in celebration of new religion. Nobody led me or said this way. I sailed alone on makeshift raft with wind as companion. Fate for deliverance, confidence enough to assess new dispositions. Seekers of lost paradise may seem fools to those who never sought the living. Welcome to Momentary Zen with Zen Garcia. Visit www.fallenangels.tv. You're listening to Revolution Radio.
All right. Hello and welcome, everybody. And I greatly appreciate all of you, and I'm hoping everything works. This is my first time actually trying to stream on YouTube. Of course, those of you that are familiar with the show know that Justin usually keeps up with the chat and with the live stream, and he does a lot of the technical work in the background, and he and Joy are such a great blessing to the work that I do. But both of them they've just landed in Hawaii, and I pray that everything is good there. They are. Yes, I apologize. I don't have all of the pictures that Justin has. I just figured how to actually go live, so I apologize for that. And I will try to provide. I'm going to try to actually, while I'm reading, to show the words and the scriptures and the things that I'm going to be reading from tonight, which, as you see, and I hope that it is coming through clearly, that the name of the show is A Cup of Trembling Amongst the Nations, and this has to do with the Zechariah 12 prophecy. Okay, and just somebody, Sherry or Brick, Tammy, somebody in the Jane, in the chat, just give me a shout out that you can hear me clearly and that I'm coming through and that everything's good so far. And like I said, this is all very new to me, so I'm trying. And Justin gave me a quick run through last night, and I looked it up earlier today. And so, hopefully, okay, great. Thank you, Dayton, and everybody else. And yes, I will, again, I don't want to mess anything up by trying to put up a screen. And so I hope that you can just bear with me. At least we have the chat going, and I apologize again that there's no picture, but we're going to be reading through the scriptures because there seems to be a lot of hype and a lot of, as far as fear mongering, and a lot of, as far as America and Russia and the other nations of the world in testing each other's resolve. It's much like, the biggest bullies in the school coming to the courtyard, the playground, and flexing their muscles. They're all, as far as the gangs and they're all just seeing who can threaten or outspeak or try to scare the others. And in the process, we're all just kind of watching the unfolding as the insanity of these two bullies, which are what I consider to be just idiotic. I mean, it is all just insanity. Why would you ever want to put on the table the destruction of the world, or to threaten so many people with annihilation, if indeed this is where we are? And it seems to be that the posturing and the news that has been coming out, and I did watch a show last night where an individual was speaking about this, just the threats that are being made. And as I've covered in reading a lot of the Great Commission 3 and a lot of these scriptures on there being a new heaven and a new earth at the end of days, and we know that the Word of God, the Word of the Lord, the Torah, the Scriptures as has been revealed to and by and through the prophets, they have forecast events that would occur and that would happen in what would be the time of the blooming of the fig tree. And that in the prophecy, especially, I know that many of you are familiar. You've read, you've studied, you've looked at, especially what is revealed in the gospel accounts as far as Matthew 24, Mark 13, and Luke 21. And these are all very important passages, scriptures, and when considering, because these were the exact things that were written down by the apostles when they asked the Messiah, Yahushua, as to what would be the signs of your return and of the end of the age. And he did tell us, and as is written down in John, that he goes now to prepare a place for us, and that he will come again at the end of days. And that the scriptures also say, unless the days were shortened, there should be no flesh left. But for the elect's sake, the days shall be shortened. Okay, I am trying to see how I could... Well, again, I don't want to mess up anything by trying to put up a picture, but I'm grateful that at least everything is going and that you are able to hear me. So I will do better next time. But again, I don't want to mess things up. And so I'm not going to try to put up, and I'll learn, just bear with me. Be glad that I'm able to speak and to share and to have the live stream with all of you. Oh, goodness, now I don't even know how to get back to chat. Okay, I have the chat room opened up again. Uh-oh. Okay. I'm just going to have to open up another and just see. I want to make sure that sound is good again, but yeah, I'm not going to be able to bring forth a image. I'm sorry that it's black, but it's just going to have to be that way because I'm not familiar with OBS. I've never done all this live streaming before, but let me check the chat room and make sure that we're coming through again because there was. I'm sorry that it. Okay, yeah, we're still good. Okay, wonderful. I'm glad I at least have the. No, I am on my computer, Tammy. I just, again, not familiar with all this, but we're going to continue with the show, and you're just going to have to bear with me. Just focus on the chat. But again, the scriptures tell us that in the great and terrible day of the Lord, there would be that this world age would end by fire, and that the elements, there would be the fervent heat would dissolve the world, and that this is how the destruction would come about. And also that in the query, the dialogue that Christ shared with the apostles, which all of them were there and heard the lecture that he gave in regard to these signs, the rumors of wars, all those different things of which many of you are very familiar, and we have shared and read through. As far as the DRC, we've looked at and have read through the entire Great Commission 3, which has a number of the apocalyptic manuscripts, which I do want to well, I will at break, when I have the time, I'm going to bring up and share with you some of the information that is contained therein. But anyways, with regard to prophecy, we know that the scriptures, about a third of it, has been written for our generation, this time, this age, and we as a people. That there is this distant and remote generation that would inherit the legacy of all that had been shared. We have the Daniel, the vision of Daniel, those things that are relevant, like Ezekiel chapters 37 through 39, Jeremiah chapter 50 through 51, Zechariah 12, which is where I get the verse as far as Jerusalem becoming a cup of trembling amongst the nation. And we see again that there is this posturing going on between what is and what had been created in the Cold War as communism and capitalism, and the forces of the Marxist decree against, Adam Smith, The Wealth of Nations, and how Russia and China and other communist nations that embrace the philosophy that the people should all work for and be controlled by the state, and all be equal in regard to one another. That idealistically, yeah, that sounds appealing for some people, especially if they're against the capitalism and the wealth, especially as it's been created, controlled, maintained by a small portion of what are the seed of the serpent, the children of Cain. And yeah, I'm not. Nobody is happy about that. But when it comes to a middle class and having the comfort and the safety and the values and the freedoms that America as a beacon had once represented, there has been a lot of wealth created by this country, especially when the manufacturing base had been focal and centralized here to our country. And there was a great push after they allowed the attacks on Pearl Harbor to happen, and all those people, I feel for all of those soldiers and naval men and individuals that joined the military in order to fight against the evil of what were the Axis powers. The fascism of Italy, the empire in Japan, and in Germany, the Nazi socialism, but the thing that we don't understand in regard to even World War II and other wars, the Vietnam War and others, where they have the left, right, the communism and the capitalism, and America is fighting against communism wherever it crept up in whichever part of the world, and Central America, South America, and other places in Vietnam, and wherever, that was the Cold War. That was an ongoing. The people that are fooling and running things behind the scenes, that shake each other's hand in Masonic handshake, and that know behind the scenes that all the world's a stage and everything is just a charade. They're simply following orders, and those orders are coming down from what is a supernatural power that we do not understand. As far as I'm talking about the masses, what they call the goyim, the useless eaters. Most people don't understand the false left-right paradigm and controlled opposition, and have no idea as to how behind the scenes all the secret societies, the elites, and the seed of the serpent, the children of Cain, the sons of Belial, what the war scroll calls the sons of darkness, they are working in tangent with one another to not only fool the rest of humanity and to keep the children of Adam in ignorance, which is why the Most High said, "My people are killed for lack of knowledge. But most people, again, just do not have great understanding as to how to make sense of the world. And because of that, most just don't care. They can't get past what is their own opinion, feeling, and bias towards what they know of and accept as reality. And for most of, especially here in America, the American dream, materialism, and having enough money to live and spoil oneself in luxury, and to have a bunch of toys to occupy one's time and to keep one busy, that this is the dream for most people, what they and how they want to live. They want to simply raise a family and have enough money to indulge in the pleasures of life and the things of the kingdom and the things of what's going on outside of their comfort zone, the way other people are treated, the way that foreign policy affects other people and nations, cultures and civilizations, and how America, being a bully for so long and being the military arm of what is Mystery Babylon and the New World Order, we don't understand how that's going to come back on us. And that at some point, America, because, we've removed God from the schools and denigrated the faith, how the Alice Bailey 10-point plan to remove the truth and the faith and the values of family and Scripture and God from everyday life. I don't even know if they do the Pledge of Allegiance anymore. It is no respect for the flag, no respect for the family, no respect for God. Those things cannot hold. When a nation and a people turn its back on the Most High, there's going to be consequences for that kind of thing. And it wasn't a few months ago that we talked about the true numbers in regard to the believers, and how Christ said, I will call you 1 from 1,000, 2 from 10,000. In calculating those numbers, we saw that in a world of what is said to be 7 billion people, how that equated to nothing more than 1 million true believers. 1 million true believers. And so, that's not a lot. We are truly a small minority. But it only takes a small group of divergent people for the truth to be carried forth and the truth to be revealed and the truth to be acknowledged. And the truth is powerful. The truth can set people free, and it can change the direction, alter the outcome of future and of the fate and the destiny of nations and our world. But I do know, even though I pray for the best outcome, I do know without a doubt that it's going to take the return of the Messiah for things to be put right and for the world to be restored to a harmony and a justice and a state where everybody, there can be, the children can really grow up in peace, love, and joy. All right, let me take a sip. I'll be right back. And so I'm going to read through some of the scriptures again, as I said, that are, I believe, relevant to where we are, what we're going through, and how the word reveals to us that the great and terrible day of the Lord, the wrath of God being poured out on the wicked, on those that are not written into the books of life, that this has to do with a supernatural fire which we don't really even have defined. Yes, I do believe that, the fire, as far as there will be a new heavens and a new earth and the end of the second world age, as described by 2 Peter chapter 3, that this will be something that is caused by the stars come crashing to the earth, and that the volcanoes and eruptions and the fire from the interior of the earth and from the porous, what are the deeper chambers of magma, that all this will be all fused together to bring on this final destruction. However, I do believe that the scriptures are also implying that there will be what seems to be some kind of nuclear cataclysm, and that what we see as the destruction of Mystery Babylon, and especially where the kings rule over the nations, which I believe this to be New York and the United Nations specifically, that building which has been earmarked as the seat of world government, and where the elites mock, openly laugh at, ridicule, and make fun of the masses, that they are, sharing what is the true orientation of the world on the banner, the flag of the United Nations. And yet at the same time, they're, teaching everybody in school, brainwashing people into believing that the world is moving, that the earth is spinning at 1,037 miles an hour, at the same time that it's moving annually in orbit around the sun, when the complete opposite is true. That the earth is stationary, fixed, and non-moving, and that the sun is one of, 7 other what are called the planets of the universe in the Sefer Yetzirah, that Enoch describes them as being part of these stars, the wandering planets, which move in circle and orbit around Polaris. And if you want to call, something the center of what is the celestial night and the luminaries, well, that would be the North Star Polaris, not the sun. The sun, without a doubt, is moving quickly, in fact, especially now that we've entered into what is fall and winter, because it is moving over the southern latitudes and circling in circumference what is a bigger and wider median than that of the equator. And because of that, it has to move very quickly. That one circle in a 24-hour period is, it has to cover a lot more space than it did when it was over the interior of what is the inner portion of the earth, leaning towards and moving towards the northern pole, which is where the Mount of the Congregation is located. That this is also where the abysmal chasm, the bottomless pit, is located, and where the ladder of Jacob, where he saw the angels ascending and descending, the angels of the Most High ascending up to the throne of the Father, and that the heavenly temple is associated above the vaulted dome of the earth, where the where Polaris is located. And that it is for this reason that the altar that we have in our home is situated pointing north. I used to have it pointing east towards Jerusalem because I consider that to be the Holy Land, and know it to be the what is the land of the Father and the one nation He has chosen for Himself, in the land that He had covenanted and promised to first Shem and then to Abraham in inheritance. And it is there that at the end of days that we will be gathered to honor what are the feast days, the Levitical feast days, the true holy days of the Most High. And that in Zechariah chapter 66, it speaks about how we will come to bow before Him and to honor the feast of the Lord from Kadesh to Kadesh, which is the time of the new moon, and from Sabbath to Sabbath. All right, and so let me check the chat really quickly. Donna does have a question, and if you do have a question and you post it in the chat and I don't get to it, please just do it again, and especially at the breaks. But Donna asks, can you describe what Adam and Eve's body were like before the fall? Yes, really great question. And I cover this in The Great Contest 2, The Enmity Between the Seed Lines, where I speak about the fall and what took place after the war in heaven, which is covered in The Great Contest 1. And that the war in heaven, after the angels were cast out, Satan and the 1/3 of the angels which rebelled against the Most High, being cast down here to the earth, and that they were the ones that established the ancient mother culture of Mu and Atlantis, Lemuria, and all that. All that, was prior to Adam and Eve. But it tells us within the primary Adamic literature, which we've compiled all of that, and that simply means all of the ancient manuscripts which focus on and tell the story of Adam and Eve and what they were like and how they had lived. How Adam was appointed priest, prophet, and king, that he had taught and was anointed to lead the Church of Eden in what is paradise, the garden of God. And that the serpent, the Nakash, the shining one of the sons of God, snuck in there and caused he and Eve to fall by beguiling Eve and leading her, seducing her, and sexually corrupting her. And so they were much like the angels of the Most High. It says in the scriptures that they were bright-natured. And what that means is that they were originally created like all of the other angels, like all of us were when we were first established, that we were all the children of the Most High. We were all the morning stars. What are the stars in heaven, which are angels. We were all like the angels, immortal in aspect and created to live eternally. But when Satan, who became the adversary of God and man, and Satan Nael, the adversary of El, that when he caused a third of the angels to fall, as it says in Psalms 82, that they were placed under the authority of death and they would die the death of a man. And so even before we were placed under the authority of death, and Adam and Eve had the spirit of life, of their life blown into what was a dust body, and then Eve, separated from Adam, became the female gender, and they were once one flesh, meaning I believe that the angels are hermaphroditic, that they are whole. They're not one or the other, but they are in the resemblance and the image of the Most High, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. They are complete male and female, androgynous. And it's only when we take on human forms and have, physical, sexual organs in order to copulate and to procreate and to continue the race that, we are born male or female, and that, the creation is both male and female after the image of God, which, again, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Mother, they are a family in heaven. And so when you read, and I'll go into the rest of this, but I do want to give you a full answer to your question, Donna. And so the primary Adamic literature, it shows to us that when Adam and Eve were removed from paradise, they were put on the wilderness of the earth, and they were placed under the authority of death, and they were flesh, mortal creatures. That Eve was pregnant with both Cain and Abel, and that she was the mother of all living because she would give birth to the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent. And so they did not even understand how to walk. they had never taken physical steps up to that point. And I believe that, as we float around in dreams, that we are able to maneuver by the projection of our will, that's the way the angels move. They're not walking or flapping their wings, they're projecting their will. And so I think that's when we return to our bright nature that we will take on similar posture. And that they were also unfamiliar with eating or drinking, the feel of heat and cold, and also they had never seen the light of the sun nor experienced darkness. And so all of these things are part of, the senses that we have when we are living in our bodies. That our bodies are a vehicle for our spirit and our soul. And that when we are returned to our bright nature, there will be no more aging, no more death, no more tears, no more suffering. And we're all looking forward to that day and age. Yes, they were immortal light beings. And so we also will be returned to our first state, God willing. But that they were taken after Christ died on the cross, descended down into Sheol. They were given unto the archangel Michael, and they were brought before the throne of the Father as the first fruits of the resurrected dead. And then they were baptized in the Archericine lake. They were cleansed of sin and cleansed of mortality. And Paul talks about this, that we will be transformed in the twinkling of an eye, and that we will be returned to our glorified forms, and that at the judgment seat our flesh bodies will also be resurrected, and that every knee shall bow, every tongue confess. There's going to be, the great white throne judgment, the harvest, and then the determination of who would be worthy to go forth to be with Christ for the millennial age. Cheryl Crawford asks, I would suggest to all to read the book of Adam and Eve. I read the book and wept several times while reading it. It had never occurred to me how sad it was for them. Yeah, that is such a great comment. It is. It's so sad that they were placed under the authority of death, and they had, they even tried to kill themselves. I believe they committed suicide like 2 or 3 times because it was just too much for them. And for all of us at different points in our lives, it seems the burden of being in the flesh is just too much. And especially for people of this generation that, really don't know how to take care of themselves or to make it in this world. It's a lot. It is difficult, especially now with prices being so exorbitant and inflation being at an all-time high. I mean, it's insane how much you have to pay even for a gallon of milk or a loaf of bread. And the scriptures also talk about this, that they say that a day's wages, that even to buy one loaf of bread, it would take a person all day to work to earn the money to have one meal. And you know that the mark of the beast, you would have to take that in order to be able to buy and sell. And so we're going to talk about that too. Things are, crazy. Donna says it made me not want to have a word when we met Abba, willing the deception of the serpent Hasatan was so strong, even for them coming out of Eden. Can you imagine? I mean, all they had known, and they were said to only be in paradise for 9 hours, so they were tricked all within the first day of their creation. So they never even had a chance to settle into the blessing, the harmony, the bounty, the joy of paradise. And all of a sudden they find themselves tempted and deceived and then removed from paradise, but yet with the memory of being able to see all the angels and to interact with and to speak with and to eat the fruit of the garden, and then to be removed and to have the cherubim put into place to protect them from the tree of life because they were now in a fallen state. Cheryl says it really had an impact on my faith and how I looked at life in general. I think it's really important, and they don't teach this again in Sunday school or the seminaries. They don't teach that, as Christ said, remember from whence thou art fallen, that our home is in paradise, that we were made immortal, that we were like the angels of God, and that we have pre-existed since the establishment of the spirits of all of creation. Even before the foundations of this world were laid, that when God created the spirits of all the creatures, all of humanity, all of everything, even the elements, the fire, wind, water, earth, everything was created all together on the first day that Christ spoke the word, and the expanse of what is the universe, the heavens and the earth, were created all together. As it says, in the legends of the Jews, as a pot, like a tent, like Isaiah 40:22, that the earth is the foundation and the heavens are spread out like a curtain above it, and that the Most High sits upon the circle of the earth, and from the very top, the tabernacle, the apex, the pinnacle, the zenith of what is the world, there looks down and is in prophetic control of everything, knowing the end from the beginning and having established all things with purpose. Yar Elohim says, think how bad it was to know perfection and then all of a sudden having to be cold, hot, stinky, diarrhea, burps, food poisoning. Well, yes, all of that. They were, it's starvation, thirst, hunger, cold, and being hot. All those discomforts of life. And then also, they were going to die. They were going to age. They suffered until they succumbed to death. Yes, you're right, Tammy. They don't teach this anywhere. And how important is it to know that we were not created in this fallen form, nor were we created in this fallen world, but that our home is with the Most High. That we are supposed to be with God, and that there will be a day, the promise of the cross and of Christ coming into mortal form in order to die was to redeem us. That he did all of this. His role as Savior, Messiah, was to come into the world in order to restore us to our glorified form and to return us to our first estate. What an incredible gift. He is offering us everlasting life, eternity, infinity. I mean, those words are so deeply profound. I mean, one cannot even imagine the full encompassing definition and scope of those words. I mean, words fail to convey what the Messiah has done for us and allowed himself to be beaten, persecuted, condemned, and killed. Scott Levitt says, a day here is as 1,000 years. And yes, they did die on the same day. In the day that you eat or touch thereof, you shall die. And both Adam and Eve died at 930 years of age. They died 1 week apart from each other. We are all just little children and being led by a little child, maybe 2 days old on a galactic plane. The Adam and Eve, they were, 1,000 years, even though consider they lived, 9, 10 times longer than us. And even 1,000 years is just a blink of an eye. One lifetime in the immortal journey of spiritual soul. That's from one of my poems. So yes, it's a blink of an eye. It's nothing. Especially in comparison to eternity. And why would you not want to accept the gift of eternity that was promised by the Most High to all of us? If we would just believe. Last comment here, Dayton says, in this vision his greatness was great, and say him call everyone out individually in love. In I love you, yet we all saw him in his glory where we did kingdom. It was strange. Everyone he cheered. Yeah, it didn't put your entire comment, but I think the people get the picture. They understand. And we're almost at break, so I'm not gonna get into the other prophecies and the reading until we return from break. Oh, your spirit, yeah, as far as the morning star shouting for joy. Yes, when we were all there. And we don't remember those things, but we will. The memory is burned to our soul. All right, we'll be right back, everyone.
We'll be right back.
Fifi, it loves you. Pretty princess. I gotta pull my hips back just a little bit. Thanks. Appreciate it. All right, thanks.
You want your blanket?
Yeah, it's good to have fun. Fifi, you just love to be right in front of Daddy, don't you?
When we take a look at
She's a pretty girl.
spirituality, psychology, social issues, and geography.
Thanks. Yeah, absolutely.
It's every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern on Studio B.
Thanks.
That's Freedom
Hey, Fifi. You're so funny, girl.
Transcending time and space, let us take you to the place inside your mind where thoughts divide and mysteries unwind. Join us every Monday evening right here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com.
You give her some treats? Yeah. There you go, Fifi.
With our great host,
There you go,
Lori
pretty.
and Glenn. Come listen in as
Oh,
she shares
yeah.
her amazing stories
There's the
from past
cleanser,
and
man.
present, along with all of her guest secrets to the future. That's the Fenton Perspective every Monday evening right here from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Only
Love that, don't you, pretty?
Radio. Oh, and
Yeah, that chocolate is good.
we're already here. We're already here.
Go ahead and tell Lady you're way too much. I mean, you just...
Yeah, thanks.
No problem.
If you think for 1 second that the Capitol will ever treat us fairly, you are lying to yourselves. Because we know who they are and what they do. This is what they do, and we must fight back. You can torture us and bomb us, fire and catches. And if we burn, you burn with us.
I'm gonna get one more piece right here. Yeah, thanks.
Are you awake yet? Wide open.
Oh no, just one more piece of chocolate.
I
Yeah,
know we tried for years and years
yeah,
to use passive resistance.
it's good stuff. You think Logan wants some?
She's not a big fan of it, sadly.
Thanks. Really?
No.
Wow.
Your governments around the
I
She's a
think it's
Reese's
so
Bug.
good. Yeah, I understand.
to decimate
All right, thanks.
your existence. At the hands of the bankers, the
the elites.
Appreciate it.
No bother.
The war is coming, and it's your choice to decide if you want to be a warrior or a victim. Denial is not a choice anymore. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the planet. Not giving up. Revolution Radio.
Okay.
Alright, thanks for listening while we took that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And yeah, we're going to get back to your host.
Well, thanks for letting me know, Tammy. I apologize again. I'm still getting, used to and new at all of this as far as the live stream. And I thought that y'all were able to hear the commercials that are in the break for the top of the hour, but not so much. So, anyways, I did have some water and ate a piece of Baker's dark chocolate, which is keto chocolate, and sometimes that helps with my throat, Fifi, and of course my loyal companion, my pure Persian, my little princess. She's 16 years old. She's always up here with me while I do the shows, and so. But Fifi, I cannot see through you. I need to read pretty. Come on. Sorry. But she's a pure white Persian doll face. She has one blue eye and one copper eye, so she's very, very unusual. She likes to sit with her tail towards me because she likes for me to pet her tail while I'm doing the show. So, but thank you for letting me know. But let us continue. Let's get into what I wanted to cover, and then I'll read more comments and share more of what you guys are talking about within the scriptures. Oh, yeah, I guess I have to. Whenever, I guess when I mute, I have to do it through OBS. But again, I am no expert. I don't know how to. I'm just learning all these things. At least we are live streaming the show. I do apologize again for it being just a black screen. Justin has everything uploaded to his computer and his OBS, all the different scriptures and the overlays and everything in all the videos and the commercials that were of the grandkids and just joy and I don't have any of that. This is my first time doing this OBS. So anyways, before we get into Zechariah 12, which is what I want to read from, and maybe some portions of Ezekiel 38, 7, 37, 38, 39. But I wanted to start with Albert Pike's vision for the need to have these 3 world wars, which we spoke about this. But this is, and I know I've read this numerous times, but we again have a lot of new listeners. We have a lot of people that are coming on that have not heard the things that we talked about previously, and how we are able to decipher the truth for you in a way that not a lot of channels are able to, help people to come to discernment on the truth of the reality of what is going on in the world. And that's an unfortunate thing because, again, the scriptures say my people are killed for lack of knowledge, lack of truth, and also getting caught up in the false left-right paradigm. People exhaust themselves politically to fight for the left or the right. And, as it says in Zechariah, that Jerusalem would become a cup of trembling amongst the nations. What is not being reported on here is that the divide we just had for the first time in a long time, we had a federal representative, a Democrat from Michigan, be censured by the House for she's a Palestinian American and she's the only Palestinian American in Congress, and for whatever she did not immediately condemn the Hamas attacks on Israel. And of course we know that all this was allowed to go forward, that Israel allowed those attacks to take place and their citizens to be slaughtered. And that's just the truth of the matter. I mean, if you've not looked at or examined the events of that day, like 9/11, there's more to it than what we are being told. And the official story, the official narrative, does not explain the events and how things went down. And I am not anti-Semitic. I'm not Israeli hater. I'm not any religion or person or, gender, creed. I don't hate anybody. But I do stand with the Word. And I do stand with God. And the Most High does hate, liars, deceivers, murderers, pedophiles, the sorcerers, witchcraft, all that. And so, I'll stand with the Word, but, and the synagogue of Satan, those who say they are Jews but are not. And these, I believe, are without a doubt the Freemasons, that the secret societies, the people that are behind the printing of the money and loaning it to the governments at interest, that, and this Albert Pike, the vision of the creation of how they wanted to establish Zionism in order to set the radical Muslims against what is the Zionists, and to have them decimate each other. And now we see even in this country that there's been massive protests all throughout many of the states and many different cities. And it's a divide between what are the Palestinian Americans who are, being just yesterday, somebody reported the story of how one of the Israelis, part of the Knesset, I believe, or something of that nature, said that, a nuclear bomb should be dropped on Gaza. And Gaza is just a small piece of land, and it is highly populated. It is condensed with individuals because they don't allow anybody out. Most people are stuck. It's like an open air prison. But anyways, and then, as I was talking about and reporting at the very beginning of this show, that the two bullies, America and the United States, they come out and they're speaking about how they have a new generation of nuclear weapons 29 times more powerful than that which was dropped on Hiroshima during World War II. And, the bullies are posturing to and threatening each other, and that can only end badly for the world. And so I think it's all just insanity that, people, even if they're led by Satan, the seed of the serpent, that anybody would actually consider slaughtering people, killing people in such a manner. I mean, they said that the nuclear blast radius would be like 30 kilometers in instant incineration. And, I just hope that if all that happens, that I go out with the blast. I don't want to be here for any of all that. I don't want to survive. I pray that I can make it to the return of the Messiah, and that I get called up in the air, and that we are all called up together, and that we, God willing, join him for that union. But all of what happens after the wrath of God is poured out on the wicked, which I do believe that the destruction of Mystery Babylon, where it speaks about that the land would become so destroyed that all the animals would even have to leave, and that everybody, all the merchants would cry because all, 1/3 of the ships of the seas would be destroyed. The creatures of the ocean would be killed. I mean, it's just massive death and annihilation, and that there would be a point where there would be no water, that everything would become so dry there would be no water, and people would die of thirst, and that the water that could be found would be blood red because it's tainted by the dust that accompanies the return of the destroyer. So anyways, I just want to read this again with regard to the plan that was put in place by the Illuminists all the way back in the late 1800s. 1871, I believe, is when this was written. And this is the letter from Albert Pike to Giuseppe Mazzini, speaking about their need to foment 3 world wars as a catalyst for bringing on and bringing in a one world order, a one world government, a one world religion, political, religious, and institutional system. And that they would do this by creating these 3 global, quote unquote, conflicts. And so let's see. The First World War must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the power of the czars in Russia, and making that country a fortress of atheistic communism, the divergence caused by the agents of the Illuminati between the British and Germanic empires will be used to foment this war. At the end of the war, communism will be built and used to destroy the other governments, and in order to weaken religions. The Second World War, and remember, this was all created after the Federal Reserve System was put into place. And that once that was done in 1913 by Woodrow Wilson, that the Illuminists then had the power and the money and the control to tax not only the American people, to fund, both sides of the opposition, and to create the Axis and the Allied powers, and to pin them against one another, to create minorities, and to have, people slaughter each other and become cannon fodder for one another. That is the power of the Federal Reserve System, and how the central banks and all that being put into place has led to this agenda. The creation of what was first the League of Nations and now the United Nations, and how the United Nations, even though they have a sinister history and they've done more to start wars and to create wars than they have to prevent them, that they now have the respect of the world and are seen as the platform, the organization by which to handle the affairs of nations and their political rivalries and their political differences. But that is not what the United Nations was actually created for. They were not created to solve conflicts and to do what is the best interest of the world. They are there to be the strong arm of the elite and to force the world into global taxes and to have them have everybody placed under the tyranny of what is an extension of the elitist reign of terror. So let's continue. The Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascists and the political Zionists. This war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed and political Zionism be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel in Palestine. During the Second World War, international communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which would be then restrained and held in check until the time when we would need it for the final social cataclysm. And what is that final social cataclysm? It's what we see now. We see all this posturing where America has been threatening and invading all these Muslim nations, and we're creating terrorists. And at the same time, we have open borders. How, if you're going to fight terrorism, can you allow open borders to exist unless you know that you're setting up your country? You're allowing it to be destroyed from the inside out. The barbarians aren't at the gates. They are in the halls of Congress, in the White House. I mean, this is a continued Nazi dictatorship with paperclip and all of that. Okay. Hello, Adam. Hello, Shelley, Donna. Love all of you. Thank you for being here. Penny, good to see you, sister. All right, let us continue, because I want to get into some of the scriptures, but I want to set the precedence for what we're going to be talking about. So let's look at the Third World War. The Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agentures of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. So again, here, this is exactly what we see with Benjamin Netanyahu and the Likud party. They are the political Zionists, the leaders, the Talmudic Jews of Israel, the synagogue of Satan, and the leaders of the Islamic world, Hamas, who was created by Israel. So again, it's a false left-right paradigm. It's a dog and pony show. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and the political Zionism, the state of Israel, mutually destroy each other. Is this not what we are seeing? Israel allowed the attacks where their people would be slaughtered, 1,400 of their citizens decimated, in order to do what? To go into Gaza and to, as it says, mutually destroy each other. Meanwhile, the other nations, that includes America, who keeps sticking their nose into everybody's business, threatening to attack Iran, and that's going to happen. And when that happens, oh my goodness, I mean, the insanity of the world situation. But meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue. What issue? The Muslim Arabic world and political Zionism mutually destroying each other. Will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economical exhaustion. This is exactly what they want. They want us to incur such debt. And they've already insured it. I mean, we're $33 trillion in debt. There's no way that we're going to recover or ever restore fiscal sanity back to this country. And it wasn't even long ago that, we were once a creditor nation. Whether you like him or not, Bill Clinton, he shut down the government. He forced the Congress to come up with a balanced budget. But then shortly after that, George Bush and Obama, boy, they put us in a bind. And Trump too. Don't think he wasn't part of it, because he was. And 30 some trillion dollars in debt later, there's no way. They keep raising the debt ceiling, and there's no way. At some point, it's going to be, they're going to have to shut down government in order to declare bankruptcy. And we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm, which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, the origin of savagery, and of the most bloody turmoil. What is that? Can you say the, fiscal collapse of the entire world? That the destruction of the dollar, that there's going to be a new world order and a currency that comes into place to replace America and the American dollar, which is nothing more than, magic, a Ponzi scheme that has deceived the entire world for all this time, and giving the power and the wealth and the money and the control to those that serve, that are the synagogue of Satan. I mean, imagine they print the money and loan it to governments at interest. That's insane. Then everywhere the citizens obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries, that is them, will exterminate those destroyers of civilization and the multitude, disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an idea but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer brought finally out in public view. If you do not believe that this can happen, I challenge you to take a look at the growth and the rise of occultism in America. The open church of Satan, the temple of Set, all these people that are dedicating themselves to Baphomet and to Lucifer, that are wearing Baal t-shirts and getting tattoos and piercings and all of that. It's insane what's going on out there in the world. All right, let me take a sip of water. I'll be right back. And so, as it says here, but without knowing where to render adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer. Who is Lucifer? He is the light bearer. He's Satan. Samael, the angel of death, the viper of God, brought finally out into public view. So they're touting, and I mean, this has been going on for a long time. Anton LaVey and the Church of Satan. Look at how many, even scientism, not only scientism, but Scientology. They also believe in the fallen angels as being the creators of humanity. Who is the fallen angel that led the rebellion, the insurgency in heaven? It's Lucifer, the light bearer, Samael, the angel of death. And they're saying that their religion, their New World Order, and the worship of this being is going to come out into public light. And that Christianity, Islam, Zionism, all of them will be destroyed and atheism put into place. This manifestation will result from the general reactionary movement which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. And so with that power vacuum comes forth the Antichrist. And the Antichrist is going to be Lucifer, Satan, the adversary of El and man. All right, so let me go ahead and I wanted to get into this one scripture. Zechariah 12. Which is about the cup of trembling amongst the nations and has the whole prophecy of how Zionism and Jerusalem and the creation of Israel, which is interesting that Israel gets its name from 3 Egyptian deities, Isis, Ra, and El was also the name of Baal, even though I know El is the real, is an assertion and allusion to the real Most High God. And the reason I can say that is because if you look at all the names of the prophets and all the names of the angels, they end with El. And El is a reference to Yehovah, Yahweh, the Tetragrammaton. And so let us go into this before we run out of time. Zechariah 12, chapter 1. Behold, the day of the Lord cometh, and thy spoils shall be divided in the midst of thee. For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled, and the women ravished, and half of the city shall go forth into captivity, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city. Then shall the Lord go forth and fight against those nations, as when he fought in the day of battle. And his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem on the east, and the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof towards the east and towards the west. And there shall be a very great valley, and half of the mountain shall remove toward the north, and half of it toward the south. And ye shall flee to the valley of the mountains, for the valley of the mountains shall reach unto Azal. Yea, ye shall flee like as ye fled from before the earthquake, in the days of Uzziah king of Judah. And the Lord my God shall come, and all the saints with thee. And it shall come to pass in that day that the light shall not be clear nor dark. Now remember, all this is part of Revelation, where it speaks about the return of the Messiah with 10,000s of his saints. And it shall come to pass in that day that light shall not be clear nor dark. But it shall be one day which shall be known to the Lord, not day nor night, but it shall come to pass that at evening time it shall be light. And it shall be in that day that living waters shall go out from Jerusalem, and half of them toward the former sea, and half of them toward the hinder sea, in summer and in winter it shall be. And the Lord shall be king over all the earth. In that day shall there be one Lord, and his name one. All the land shall be turned as a plain from Geba to Rimmon, south of Jerusalem, and it shall be lifted up and inhabited in her place from Benjamin's gate unto the place of the first gate, unto the corner gate, and from the tower of Hananiel unto the king's winepresses. What are we speaking about here? It says in the revelation of St. John the Theologian that when the earth and the heaven are destroyed and that the earth is burned up, the land will be completely flat like a plain. It will be completely level, smooth like a tabletop. And men shall dwell in it, and there shall be no more utter destruction, but Jerusalem shall be safely inhabited. Why is that? Because New Jerusalem is going to descend out of the heavens, come here to the earth, and God will tabernacle with men. And God willing, the elect will enter into what will be the fulfillment of the Feast of Sukkot, the Feast of Tabernacles, when New Jerusalem is here on the earth. Because remember, it says that the heavens shall roll back like a scroll. The firmament will open, and New Jerusalem will descend out of the heavens to be here on the earth. And this shall be the plaque wherewith the Lord will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall... Now listen to this again. I believe this is all, what seems to be nuclear, possibly, in occurrence. I mean, it certainly fits the picture, and whether this is, the fire of the Lord, the wrath of God poured out on the wicked, the stars come crashing to the earth, the wormwood thrown into the ocean, whatever it is, it's not a good thing what I'm about to describe. And this shall be the plaque wherewith the Lord will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. And so these people that this is happening to, their flesh is just ripped away. Their eyes are dissolved while they're in their sockets. Their tongue while in their mouth. I mean, that sounds to me like, some kind of nuclear annihilation, destruction. And Judah also shall fight at Jerusalem, and the wealth of all the heathen round about shall be gathered together, gold and silver and apparel in great abundance. And so shall the plague of the horse, of the mule, of the camel, and of the ass, and all the beasts shall be in these tents as this plague. Oh, sorry, I said plague, but it's actually plague. What a ding-dong. And so shall be the plague of the horse, of the mule, of the camel, and of the ass, and all the beasts that shall be in these tents, as this plague. And it shall come to pass that every one that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the feast of tabernacles. Remember, that's what I was talking about. It's also mentioned in Isaiah chapter 66. And it shall be that whoso will not come up of all the families of the earth unto Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, even upon them shall be no rain. So the rain will be withheld if we do not worship the Most High God and honor the festivals, the Feast of Tabernacles here mentioned, the Levitical feast days. And if the family of Egypt go not up and come not that have no rain, there shall be the plague, wherewith the Lord will smite the heathen that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. So not only will there not be any rain, but if they continue to go in their arrogance, in their pride, in their stupidity and ignorance, then a plague shall come upon them, as did Egypt previously. This shall be the punishment of Egypt and the punishment of all nations that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. In that day shall there be upon the bells of the horses holiness unto the Lord, and the pots in the Lord's house shall be like the bowls before the altar. Yea, every pot in Jerusalem and in Judah shall be holiness unto the Lord of hosts. And all they that sacrifice shall come and take of them, and seeth therein, and in that day there shall be no more the Canaanite in the house of the Lord of hosts. And so we know that the Canaanites are the children of Ham, the seed of the serpent, that was a result of Ham seeing the nakedness of his father, which meant that he had sexual relations with Naamah, who was the second wife of Noah, and she was the mother of Ham. That the first wife, who in Jasher chapter 6 also says was Naamah, but from the line of Enoch, the seventh from Adam, But the Nama spoken about as being the mother of Ham, she was Nama from, who was the sister of Tubal-Cain from the line of Cain. The daughter of Lamech, she was a twin. Her brother Tubal-Cain was the one that was killed by Lamech when he pointed to shoot what ended up being their ancestor Cain. And that was the fulfillment of the prophecy of the 7 times 7 generations of curses, generational curses. All right, we have just a short time, so I want to hello Sharon. Good to see you. Hebrew Hawaiian. Hello, sister. Send love to my children. I hope you guys are all having a great time. Would tell Justin we miss him greatly because I don't know what I'm doing. And everybody's staring at a black screen. Because really just, again, don't really know what I'm doing. Shaloha. But it's good to have all of you here. Okay, Donna has a question. Oh yeah, and send my regard to Noble. And to the rest of the fam. Did the wedding at Cana have any revelatory meaning to Canaan? That's a good question. Not that I really know of, other than, we will be part of the bride, and that the wedding feast, that the Messiah is the bridegroom. So, the end of days, and also the divorce of Israel and the restoration of the earth where it's created without sin and restored back to its original state. You know what? I did a show with Dr. Joy, and I don't know if it's actually still here on YouTube because they keep deleting all of our information. And I did, just so you know, I did get an external hard drive that's 12 gigabytes in size. And so I'm going to, or terabytes actually. And I'm going to download all of our shows so that we can upload them to a different platform and not have them all just disappear. Well, thank you, Hebrew Hawaiian. But yes, listen to a show that I did with Dr. Joy on the wedding feast of the Lamb. It was a really good show. And she covers in great detail metaphorically, the prophetic meaning of the bride and the bridegroom, and Christ being, like returning as a thief in the night. All of that. Yeah, Sharon, I think of Rob as well. And I actually need to reach out to Jeremiah and Sheila. It's been a little while, and I've not been of the greatest of health. I'm still in recovery mode. I can't believe how much, sepsis just wipes you out. But thank goodness there's no permanent organ damage, and I'm still contending. But I'm trying to do what I can while I'm here, and I'm working on a book of poetry. I'm gonna try to release that. Yes, you guys are going to have a great time, a Hebrew Hawaiian. I really wish I could have made the journey, but it's just too much. 10 hours of flying is too much for me. Donna Smith says, let's always remember 444, which was something that Rob had implored and had talked to everybody about doing, that we can all pray for each other, one another, especially in these times that we're living in. I mean, we are living in some very insane times. And without a doubt, we are the fig tree generation. If you don't know what I'm talking about as the prophecy of Matthew 24, Mark 13, and Luke 21, we are the blooming of the fig tree. I think actually I should pull this up. That the Messiah said, "Know ye the parable of the fig tree." And I always read Matthew 24. And so tonight I'm going to read a little bit of Luke 21. This will be a great way to end the show, especially for those that don't know what I'm talking about. Or if you've not read the gospel to understand the warning that the Messiah gave to us about the end times and what they would be like. I'm going to go to verse 6 really quickly because I know we're running out of time. As for these things which ye behold, the days will come in the which there shall not be left one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. And they asked him, saying, Master, but when shall these things be? And what sign will there be when these things shall come to pass? And he said, Take heed that ye be not deceived. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ. And the time draweth near. Go ye not therefore after them. But when ye shall hear of wars and commotions, be not terrified, for these things must first come to pass. But the end is not by and by. Then said he unto them, Nation shall rise up against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And great earthquakes shall be in divers places, and famines and pestilences, and fearful sights and great signs shall there be from heaven. But before all these they shall lay their hands on you, and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and into prisons, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. And it shall turn to you for a testimony. Settle it therefore in your hearts not to meditate before what ye shall answer. For I will give you a mouth and wisdom, which all your adversaries shall not be able to gainsay nor resist. And ye shall be betrayed both by parents and brethren and kinsfolk, and friends, and some of you shall they cause to be put to death. And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake. But there shall not an hair of your head perish. In your patience possess ye your souls. And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let them not that are in the countries enter therein. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days, for there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon his people. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. And there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations, with perplexity in the sea and the waves roaring, men's heart failing them for fear, and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth. For the powers of heaven shall be shaken. And then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. And he spake to them a parable. Behold the fig tree and all the trees. When they now shoot forth, you see and ye know of your own selves that summer is now nigh at hand. So likewise, when ye see these things come to pass, know ye that the kingdom of God is nigh at hand. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass away, till all be fulfilled. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my word shall not pass away. And take heed to yourselves, lest at any time your heart be overcharged with surfeiting and drunkenness and the cares of this life, and so that day come upon you unawares. For as a snare shall it come on all that dwell on the face of the whole earth. Watch ye therefore, and pray always, that ye may be accounted worthy to escape all these things that shall come to pass, and to stand before the Son of Man. And in that day, the time he was teaching in the temple, and at night he went out and abode in the mount that is called the Mount of Olives. And all the people came early in the morning to him in the temple to hear him. Luke chapter 21. I also encourage you to read Matthew chapter 24, Mark chapter 13, and the entire apocalypse of Peter. I'm sorry, I missed what you said, Hebrew, Hawaiian, but welcome, Luke. Interesting. So Noah's wife was Cain's seed. I'll have to look into that, and I wonder how you find that connection. Luke, all you have to do is read chapter 19 of my book, The Great Contest 2, The Enmity Between the Seed Lines. That chapter is on how the serpent seed survived the flood of Noah's day. You will get all your answers there. But yes, Hebrew Hawaiian says, the writings of Abraham, you can find those at Sacred Word Publishing and the Book of the Order of the Ancients. All of that is found in there as well. And I do, again, share quotes from those ancient sources in my books. But if you want to read the entire narrative for yourself, there's no better than the writings of Abraham in the book on the order of the ancients to get clarity on the serpent seed surviving the flood. But again, thank you everybody for joining me this evening and for bearing with me, for putting up and for being patient. Please do hit the thumbs up. I appreciate all of you for being here. Send my love to my children, Hebrew Hawaiian, and I hope you guys have a good time. Welcome Dan and Sherry and everybody else in the chat room. It's been a good show. We had 114 listeners. Always a pleasure. Thank you again, Tammy, for your excellent moderation. We appreciate you. Thank you. She said I did a excellent job. I'll learn to, I'll learn to at least put up a picture so you don't have to just look at the black, image. All right. Good night, all. Be blessed. Shalom.